Yes. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Isaac Christopher Lubogo. Today I want to talk about this interesting book called A Philosophical Debate on Power and Ideology between Yoweri Museveni, 1986, and Yoweri Museveni, 2024, and beyond. And as we contemplate on what we're going to appreciate, we need to first of all understand that this is deep philosophical in terms of evolution of ideologies that play a distinction between these individuals, or perhaps better say individual. I decided to create an intriguing exercise that allows us to explore the evolution of this gentleman's beliefs in terms of comprehending or understanding the debates that could ensue between these two wonderful individuals. And therefore, the title is purposeful in that respect. I use these words as they should be in terms of philosophical, hypothetical discourse in terms of power and ideology between Yoweri Museveni of 1986 and Yoweri Museveni of 2024 and beyond. So, in a bold and imaginative exploration, I try to present profound philosophical discourse traversing the complex landscape in terms of power, in terms of ideology, and I, juxtapose these ideologies and strategies that have been employed by Yoweri in 1986 with those of 2024, and try to examine how governance of these philosophies have actually evolved over a period of time. My friend, welcome to serious intellectual debate. I will create a dialogue between these individuals, one who emerged as a revolutionary in terms of ideas and a vision for democratic reform, and the other who stands at a crossroads shaped by decades of governance and changing global dynamics. But please understand that this is purely hypothetical, imaginative, and provokes intellectual curiosity to stimulate reflection in terms of political leadership and ideological transformation. Now, listen, if I'm to argue in terms of key themes or justifications for that purpose, I would like to argue in terms of what they call evolution of ideology, to examine the political ideologies that can shift over time, exploring philosophical underpinnings of Museveni's evolving views on democracy, for example, and constitutionalism, and pose critical questions about the nature of political change and consistency of ideological commitments. If I'm to argue in terms of leadership and legacy through perhaps a detailed analysis, I would create a contrast in terms of early revolutionary zeal with contemporary governance challenges, for example, and provide insights into the implications of long-term leadership on personal ideology and national policy, reflecting on, of course, the tensions between the past promises and the present realities. And in terms of philosophical reflection, I would engage with philosophical aspects in terms of leadership and governance, and I would invite you, my listeners and my readers, in terms of considering the ethical dimensions of power and the role of historical context in shaping ideology and the impact of long-term rule on democratic principles. As I said, hypothetical debate between the two individuals. In terms of emphasizing imaginative, I would use these scenarios to provide plausible conversations, reflections between these two Musevenis. And I would approach my debate with understanding the complexities involved in political evolution. Another task that befalls me, ladies and gentlemen, would be in terms of arousing what you call intellectual curiosity. So my book will aim at stimulating what they call critical thinking and scholarly debate by providing a rich hypothetical exploration in terms of encouraging the readers to engage with broader questions of political theory and governance, and also ethical implications for long-term power. So rest your souls, my friends, in terms of a philosophical discourse on power and ideology, in terms of Yoweri Kaguta of 1986 versus Yoweri Kaguta Tiwahura of 2021 beyond. The question is, if these two individuals met, would they hug, or would one go to bush to fight the other? That is the question that we are contemplating before. And I will set the debates in terms of an arena where the two individuals will be engaging and discussing and arguing. The setting is a virtual debate arena where a young, energetic Museveni, for example, from 1986, meets a seasoned, experienced Museveni of 2024. And the discussion is moderated by an impartial observer, who happens to be me, the author in this book. So my friends, if I were you, I would get hold of this book and try to comprehend the debates between the two individuals. And let's assume that I'm the moderator right now, and take on the assumption and say, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this unique hypothetical debate. We have an opportunity to explore the evolution of leadership, ideas, and governance through the lens of one individual, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on one side, and we have Yoweri Kaguta Museveni of 1986, fresh from leading a successful revolution, filled with young vigor and ideas, not so. And on the other side, we have Yoweri Kaguta of 2024, a seasoned leader with decades of experience. And let's delve into ideas and debates of constitutionalism, democracy, and human rights. And then I'll pose questions to each one of them and ask them to respond. And then we can comprehend and understand what would their discussions be. Let's begin with Yoweri Kaguta of 1986, for example. In 1986, you passionately advocated for a robust constitutional framework. You believed it was essential for ensuring stability and preventing the abuse of power. What are your thoughts on this now, in light of changes that you have overseen over the years? And this would be the response of Yoweri of 1986. When we took power in 1986, we were determined to break away from the past and establish a government that truly respects the rule of law and the principles of constitutionalism. I firmly believe that a strong constitution was the cornerstone of a stable nation, and it was our duty to protect it and to protect and serve the people of Uganda, not the interest of the few. And there will be an applause and say, ooh, not so. And then we'll argue and listen to Yoweri of 2027. What is your response in terms of what that question would be? And then Yoweri of 2024 probably would say, constitutionalism is indeed vital, not so. And our journey has been one of learning and adapting. The realities of leadership demand flexibility. Uganda's unique challenges require us to amend the constitution, but change was made with the nation's best interest in mind. Stability and continuity have been essential for progress. And they say, ooh, not so. We applaud and say, yeah, not so. Judge Jatovakwat, Kumeini. And we'll begin another debate in terms of democracy. This is what I talk about in terms of this. And this is a new kind of writing, by the way. It's a new groundbreaking. And let's argue democracy. Yoweri in 1986. You once criticized African leaders for overstaying in power. Given your long tenure, how do you reconcile your early views on democracy with your continued leadership? And Yoweri of 86, remembering his ways and his strength when he said, this is not what? A mere change of arms, but a fundamental change in the politics of this country. He would actually say democracy is a guiding principle for us. I openly criticize leaders who cling to power, seeing that betrayal of democracy values. Our intention is to foster a culture of leadership transition and to ensure that power remains with the people. Leadership should be about service, not personal gain. And we say, wow, no change, not so. And then we argue, what would the one of 2024 argued. 2024, Yoweri Kaguta, what is your response? Well, my views on democracy have evolved, shaped by the complexities of governance and the specific needs of Uganda. While I once championed leadership transitions, I recognize that consistent leadership can also be a stabilizing force. So the will of the people remains paramount. Salus populi res suprema. The welfare of the people is supreme. And my continued leadership reflects on the choice and the confidence and the ability to lead Uganda through the ongoing development. And we'll say, yeah, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, the voice of the people is the voice of God, not so. And then we can say, okay, let's add you another point in terms of what? Human rights, for example, right? Let's look at Yoweri Museveni of 1986. And we'll pose a question and say, perhaps, Yoweri, in the early days, you emphasized the importance of human rights as a fundamental aspect of your leadership. How do you view human rights in the context of your administration today? And Yoweri of 86 will probably say, well, human rights were and are still a priority for our administration. We fought to end human rights abuses, to ensure dignity and freedom for every Ugandan. Our goal was to create a society where every individual felt safe, respected, and empowered to reach their full potential. And we'll say, yeah, not so. And then we'll listen to the response or rebuttal by Yoweri of 2024. And Yoweri 2024 probably will say, well, human rights remain a cornerstone of our governance. Through the landscape, it has changed. Security threats, for example, economic pressures, social dynamics require a more nuanced approach to balancing rights with responsibility. Our focus is on protecting the rights of the majority while remaining peace and secure for all. Progress in health, education, infrastructure, Bonavagagawale is testament to our commitment of uplifting the human dignity. And we'll go, yeah, not so. And I, as a moderator in this book, as I told you, I'll say, well, distinguished gentlemen, let's delve into some specifics regarding certain issues that may be dicey for the audience. Let's argue perhaps one of the most interesting one that is dicey. Let's talk about the issue of term limits. Yoweri of 1986, what is your response? And Yoweri perhaps would say, in the past, you were, a proponent of term limits as a safeguard against autocracy. What led to the decision to remove these term limits in your recent years? I will pose that question to Yoweri, not so. And I would imagine in my hypothetical debates that Yoweri would answer and say, well, I believe in term limits, and these term limits were necessary to prevent the entrenchment of power and to allow fresh ideas and perspective in terms of leadership. They were designed to serve as a check on power and encourage democratic renewal. And people say, yeah, not so. And then Yoweri of 2024 would be asked the same question. And perhaps I would imagine, hypothetically, that this would be the response in terms of what he would say. Well, the removal of term limits was a response to the needs of our country at the time. Uganda required experienced leadership to navigate complex regional and global challenges. So the decision was made with the consent of our legislative bodies and reflected in the will of our people, who have consistently supported my leadership. Jaja Tovakumeini. Not so. And say, yeah. And so I continue to make substantive debates in this book. And I say, okay, let's tackle on a dicey one. Let's debate between the argument of overstaying power. Yoweri, for example, of 1986. I would argue and ask and say, you famously stated that the problem with African leaders is their tendency to overstay in power. How do you reflect on that statement now? And then Yoweri of 1986 would say, well, my statement was rooted in the frustration of witnessing stagnation and the decline due to leaders who refuse to pass the baton. Not so. Leadership should be dynamic and responsive, not static. Yeah, our guy. Not so. We all get excited. And then we say, okay, Yoweri 2024, what is your response? And Yoweri 2024 would again say, well, I stand by my earlier sentiments, yet I also understand that each nation's context is unique. Uganda's journey required sustained leadership to consolidate gains and ensure stability. So overstay, when justified by the people's mandate and results achieved, is different from clinging to power for personal gain. Yeah, our guy. Not so. Interesting debates. And then I would argue and say, okay, let's talk a little bit about legacy and future. Not so. Because that's another interesting debate. And I'll ask and say, Yoweri, 1986, what do you hope your legacy will be, considering your initial ideas and where you stand now? And then I'll argue and say, well, Yoweri 86 would argue and say, as inspired to leave a legacy of democratic principles, human rights, and a nation that prospered through the collective efforts of its people, my vision was of a Uganda that embodied the spirit of freedom and justice. And we'll say, yeah, not so. And then I can say, okay, let's hear from Yoweri of 2024. And then Yoweri of 2024 will say, well, in response to that question, my legacy will be measured by the transformation Uganda has undergone. While I began with high ideas, the path required adjustments. My hope is not to be remembered as a leader who navigated complexity with vision, leaving behind a stronger, more resilient Uganda. The seeds planted in 1986 have borne fruit, and my continued service is dedicated securing this legacy for future generations. Wow! Not so. So I wonder and ask myself that what would these two individuals, if they met today, would they shake hands? Would they trade names? Would one say, well, you even acquired another name after long stay in power? Perhaps one would reply and say, haven't you heard of what? William Shakespeare? In his argument when he said, that we call a rose can still smell sweet even if called any other name. Ladies and gentlemen, the debate underscores the importance of dialogue, reflection, commitment to progress. So thank you for joining me. Go find this book at globalgo.org and suegeneslawup.com. By the way, we've got many other books that are hypothetical in terms of debate. We've got another one here. This is a super book for every advocate, for every law student, for every person who likes, because we have hypotheticals in terms of every real situation, by the way, but hypothetically explained in terms of, for example, we call it mastering the art, the dark art of witness manipulation, a step by step. It's called Truth Trapped. So please find our books at globalgo.org and suegeneslawup.com. Once again, it's been a pleasure and an honor to host the two individuals. And we wish them what? A happy, a healthy, prosperous, and long-term life. Not so. So those are some of the things we need to talk about. And please be blessed. And thank you for your attention.